Testing 1, 2.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, it works.
Are we talking at the same time? It still works.
You talk? Okay, yeah. Okay.
We get like the mics from
Two lapels. I'm muting them.
Hello.
Matt will kick off when Faye is ready. Where's Faye?
Oh, my guy.
Hey, do you want to start?
Yeah. No, just right here. That'd be great. Where's my AV guy? I want to make sure that people can hear me. It's on screen. I saw him. Well, I'm talking. Okay. All right. All right. Thanks. Well, welcome everybody. We're excited about the grand opening of the Edge Data Center. Just, you don't have to show your hands, but in your mind, does anybody know, or how many people know what an Edge Data Center is? Let me kick off with explaining that. So, an Edge Data Center is where the data gets accumulated before it's going to go off somewhere else for that information to get processed and disseminated. And I think one of the things that's really important about what we're doing here is that everywhere in the Panhandle's on the edge, right? So whether you're in Amarillo, we're 300 miles from somewhere where that data is going to be processed. If you're in places like Pampa or you're in farming communities, there's a lot of data that needs to be accumulated, whether it's the railroads, whether it's farming, whether it's education. Some of that data can be locally aggregated, or it's all going to be locally aggregated and processed. That's going to really increase the speed of what we're doing, the redundancy, and really bridge the digital divide that we have right now. So this is exciting because we have the grand opening of the facility here. We're going to look through that facility. There's a room there where you can kind of see what's going on with the eyes. And by the way, there are breakfast burritos. So if you haven't got one, while I'm introducing myself, go ahead and grab one. So I'm Matt Garner. I'm Executive Director of the Range, which is the regional accelerator and new growth engine of the Texas Panhandle. And what we do is we try to get industry, higher education, and the communities to collaborate. So the range is kind of where collaboration happens. So you can imagine if you're a farmer, who do I talk to about getting internet, right? It would be very hard at this point to reach out to DUOT Edge. If they reach out to Jacob or I, we can make that introduction immediately. So what the range is really trying to do is have the pulse on the Texas Panhandle and working with the higher education institutions, the grade school education institutions, and really assess what the needs are of the future. So this is not only about solving today's problems, this is about forecasting what we need in the future and delivering the promises that we are making to our children, our grandchildren, that this is going to be an excellent place to live and a place where we can stay and raise our families. We started about 6 years ago, and we conducted about 200 stakeholder interviews, and we came up with 5 priority areas. Those areas that we're really focused on are water, educating the workforce and developing a workforce of the future, environmental stewardship, health and nutrition, and then data, which is really what we're doing here today. You can imagine a world where farm equipment, machinery gets more automated. How are we going to do that? How are we going to have the facilities that transmit that data quickly and robustly and don't fail, right? if you have automatic robots that are responsible for milking your herd because nobody wants to milk cows anymore, what happens when the power goes out? You're not going to milk cows for 3 days. That's going to ruin your farm, and it's going to have very long-term effects. You're going to have your production going from 100 pounds a day to 0 pounds a day, and then those cows are going to come back and milk 25 pounds. Can you imagine if you lost 75% of your productivity because of a power outage for 2 days? So that's the types of realities that we're dealing with just the economic engine, which is really agriculture, food, fiber, and fuel of our area. So I want to kick off and introduce to you our first speaker, Chuck Ferry. He's the CEO and director of DUOT Edge Technologies Group. He's got an interesting background. He's a decorated infantry and special operations combat veteran with over 38 years of military experience. He earned a Bronze Star for Valor and a Silver Star during his 48 months of combat in Somalia, Afghanistan, and Iraq. From 2016 to 2020, he was COO president of APR Energy. And now he's currently the CEO of both APR and DUOT. So DUOT specializes in railcar inspection technology, edge data centers, and power infrastructure. Chuck?
Working okay? Well, thank you very much for the introduction. Only 26 years in the Army, so a couple of days. I just wanted to, so my name's Chuck Ferry. I'm the CEO for DUOT Technologies. I work with Doug, and Doug's really the star, at least for our company here right now. But I'm very excited to be here. Dr. Larkin, thank you very much for having us. Thank you for the opportunity to build an edge data center. The first one for us, this go around here at your facility. And I think everybody's going to be pretty excited when you see that, and hopefully some other folks will want one as well, is what we're hoping. So, who the heck is DUOT? But I also want to recognize first, before I talk about DUOT and APR Energy, some of our key partners. One is FiberLight. We couldn't have done this without them. When we go out back and we look at the facility, we always have to remember it actually has to be connected with fiber to actually make it work. That's one of the key things. And then also Accutech, it's been a real key partner for us in basically procuring and manufacturing, getting all the things that we needed to put this data center in. So we really appreciate that. There are a number of local contractors here from Amarillo that worked on the pod, and we wanted to recognize them. And then I also want to recognize some of my colleagues that are here with me, because they did most of the work. Obviously, Doug Recker. We've got David Irek and Bill Radford, Fei Kwong, and then David Dorman. So guys don't know, David Dorman's built like 30 power plants in the past. He's worked for me for quite some time. So a little bit about DUOT. So we're a small company that operates out of Jacksonville, Florida. But it's not just any company, in my opinion. It is a team of approximately 90 people right now. We all live and primarily work in Jacksonville. DUOT is actually a publicly traded company, even though it's small. And then APR Energy is a sister company now. And we basically do three things. One, for the last number of years, we've been doing what we call a rail car inspection portal, where we use a sophisticated set of machine vision, artificial intelligence software, and hardware devices to basically scan trains going at about 100 miles an hour. That business is one of our lines of business. Our second line of business is our edge data center business, which is not quite a year old. Doug and I had met each other probably about 2 years ago when he was running a company called Edge Presence. At that time, we were trying to merge the companies. It didn't really work out. Doug walked in my office probably about 8-9 months ago, and I literally hired him on the spot. I didn't even ask the CFO or anything. I just said, "You're hired." We're glad we're doing it. And he and I, the dual uptime on-site services was generated in my office on our whiteboard in a session. The third business that we have, it's exciting for us right now, is I used to be the CEO for APR Energy from 2016 to 2020. We just recently kind of reacquired that company back. So the company now has 30 large gas mobile turbines, 850 megawatts of fast power. We have a team that has deployed those assets all around the world, and we're hoping to deploy some of those assets very, very soon here into Texas, and specifically into Pampa, Texas. I know we have some folks here from Pampa, and we're working on a project there, hopefully to put some of that power there, along with some edge data centers. So that's a little bit about the company. I will tell you, the company, probably about 35 to 40% of the members in the company are veterans from the various military services. We have folks that have been in the data center business, some for 20 to 30 years, folks in the power business, 20 to 30 years. And so we're just a real collection of very, very hardworking, very dedicated folks. So if anything, doesn't go exactly right, you know where to call, and we will come. I guarantee it. So thank you very much, and thanks for coming today.
The next speaker I'm going to introduce is Doug Recker. You heard a little bit about him, but he is responsible for managing, designing, implementing, and deploying the EDC infrastructure across the U.S. for all the client sites. He founded Edge Presence in 2017, and then he founded a data center company, which was later acquired by Cologix in 2014. Mr. Recker was also a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, where he learned the value of developing a strong team and leading those throughout his career.
I'm a stander. If not, you can't see me. I'm only 5'5", so I like to, Chuck, I like to talk when I stand. Yeah, so we're so excited about this project. First of all, we're not new to the edge data center business. Before, when we ran Edge Presence, we deployed these mobile data centers like you're going to see today for mobile operators like Dish Networks and the carriers. So after we sold that business, I came to Chuck and I said, Chuck, I think you need to invest and bring this company on board, what we're going to do. And what our focus is education and healthcare. So prime example, when we were deploying these other ones for the mobile operators, we saw in these communities, these tier 3 and tier 4 markets, that they didn't really have good connectivity. They had one carrier that came into the market. That carrier goes down. Not only does the Wi-Fi go down, the cellular service goes down. Everybody's connected to Verizon or Comcast or whoever the main carrier was. So I said, that's tough to bring new business into these markets, and that's what they need to thrive, right? We need to bring industry to these businesses. So I went to Chuck and I said, look, if we put these in education centers and help the students learn and get faster connectivity, that's going to breed other outcomes, which is better connectivity in the market brings industry, brings other businesses to that market, which brings more kids to the school, which brings more money to the school. So our plan was to build these and deploy them at education centers. This is our first one, and we're so happy that we met them because they've been the best. They're probably one of the smartest in the business, and we love that. So it's easy for us to work together. What we're trying to do is educate the market and say, look, you put one of these data centers in your region, like Amarillo, we bring in multiple carriers. So FiberLight is our main partner, but we also bring on other carriers, so there's redundancy. And what that also does for industry is it brings in competition. So now even the local car dealership down the street, who's just paying for one carrier and doesn't really have a choice because he needs a lot of bandwidth, now they can co-locate right down the street instead of co-locating in Dallas or Houston. And we have the connectivity here. And how we build this pod, and we'll go into it a little bit later, but we bring connectivity here, but we also connect to the main carrier hotels. So basically, if you're in our box here, you can connect to any carrier in the country that's in that facility. Before, if you're out here in Amarillo, you wouldn't think you could get Cogent. You can get Cogent now, which you can get it very cheap, good service. Now it brings competition. So within our data center now, you can have multiple connections and multiple bandwidth providers and more bandwidth for what you're paying currently with one. So that's the goal, is to bring the pricing down, make it affordable, but yet bring the connectivity and then to drive industry as well. So our partnership works several ways. They help us educate the market. We bring the fiber here. We bring the actual connectivity in somewhat of a peering environment. And that's what we're trying to create, that nucleus here. And then anything that comes in through the community, when they co-locate, we help the actual school system. We help Region 16. They help us. We help them. And you'll see the knock that's here, which is really cool. So basically, everything that goes in our pod here and all the pods that we're going to deploy throughout Texas here in the next 24 months are going to be monitored here. So they offer a service that we can use, which is a managed service product. Now, along with the pod out here, now Region 16 can sell their products and services to not only other schools, but prime example to the health clinic down the street. So there's so many different avenues of revenue and support and connectivity and all this going on just out of that little box that can help this whole community. Now we might have 3 of these boxes in this community. Depends on what the traffic looks like and how many people need it. So we're really excited about it. So we'll go through all the product and give you a tour of the facility. We just have a little bit in the pod because we were SOC 2 certified. So we can't really have customers in there yet. So this is a perfect time for us to have the open house. So you get to walk through the pod and see everything. You see how the systems work, how everything is N+1. So this facility that we have here is state of the art, and we'll go through that. But just to give you an idea of the investment that we have and they have in the project, you'll see 2 generators outside. So those are all N+1. So everything from the utility, from Excel to your actual cabinet where your server is redundant. So we have 2 generators, we have 2 ATSs, we have 2 UPS systems, we have 2 PDUs in the cabinet. So this delivers the 5 nines, what we call it in the industry, that it should never go down. So we provide that redundancy. And there really isn't anything like that in this region that has that kind of certification. So we can do HIPAA, we can do healthcare, storage of records, all that stuff. So we're really excited. Thank you all for coming, and I'll leave it over to the smart people here. Thank you.
So before I introduce Ron, I want to cover something. It's a question that we get a lot at the range and at the Emerald Area Foundation, which is, why are we doing this? Why don't we just use satellites, right? They're available for $100. Everybody could get data. Our response is, satellite would be a great thing for David Prescott and I to have at our hunting ranch, where it would require 15 miles of taking fiber, and it would have to be powered and all of that stuff, and then have to go through rocky terrain and all that stuff. But satellite is really not adequate for what we're trying to do here. And this is where FiberLight comes in. So imagine that you're a hospital and you need end-to-end encrypted data that has to be HIPAA compliant. It has all different types of security measures that are needed. They have to have their own dedicated strand. Or you're a company and you don't want to worry about people stealing your data. You don't want to transmit that over the interwebs. So most companies, most school districts, all hospitals, most farms are going to require, 1, more data transfer than is allowed by satellite, and 2, they're going to need the upload and the download speeds for large data. And I think that's one of the aspects that we need to talk about when we're talking about covering the panhandle is, yes, we do need satellite technology. That's going to be really good for a moving tractor, right? You wouldn't want that thing to be tethered. If we think about our mobile phones and those towers are all connected to fiber, right? So if we want more internet, or we want more cellular towers, 5G towers, we're going to need things like FiberLight. And so what's very exciting about FiberLight is they've made a commitment. They're spending a lot of money on the front end to run fiber all throughout the panhandle. So I wanted to introduce Ron. Ron has been working in this industry and is drawing 30 years of construction experience and 20 years of cell experience. And now he's working on one of the most advanced network expansions and large projects in the country. And they're not just doing this here. They're doing this all over the state of Texas. They're doing this all over the country. And I'll let Ron kind of tell us about what he's up to.
Matt, I should probably just let you do our presentation because he did a great job. Took half of my stuff I was going to talk about, but no, I appreciate it. Ron Cormus, Chief Strategy Officer at FiberLight. been at FiberLight for 25 years this coming June. I was one of the founding members of FiberLight, and FiberLight has got roots that date back about 25, 27 years. We actually became FiberLight 20 years ago this year, but we had roots prior to that. We're what we call a mid-mile provider. We enable mid-mile, and one of the things that Matt said was very important. You can have internet. Internet's great, right? But if you're going to attract large businesses, hyperscales, they need more than internet. They got to have that major connectivity. We're working on a huge project right now in Abilene, which has been all over the news. The amount of bandwidth is coming out of that Abilene data center is unbelievable. Just one customer, we turned up 32 400 gig circuits. That's just one of the hyperscalers that are going in there. There's multiple hyperscalers. Those are type of industries such as the projects going up, Mr. Keogh's project in Tampa or Pampa. That is going to require much more than internet, right? I mean, you've got to have major connectivity, and our network is capable of 400 gigs, soon to be 1.2 terabits. So we have over 200 last mile providers that we enable. We do not do residential, we do business, we do hyperscale carriers, we enable them. We have, like I said, those 200, we do business with over 24 co-ops and ILECs, because they need our connectivity to go back to Dallas or Houston or San Antonio. And today it's more than just connectivity in a single thread. These hyperscalers are requiring multiple connectivities. They don't want one carrier. They don't want two carriers. They want 3 carriers to provide connectivity back to the major data centers. And we're in over 120 data centers in the state of Texas. We have over 13,000 miles that we own and operate in Texas. That's the largest geographical network in Texas of any carrier. Now, AT&T's got more network, but it's consolidated into, the metros. So our partnership with Dr. Larkin and Michael here and the rest of Region 16 has been something special. FiberLight, I took it to the board, and we are investing millions of dollars in the Panhandle. This is not something that they're paying for everything. They are not. The board approved $8 million for us to build out Panhandle. And when we're done, we're going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,500 miles just in the Panhandle of Texas. We'll go to every city in the state or in the Panhandle area, and we'll provide services. We will provide the ILECs to come back, the co-ops services back to Dallas, where they can get better internet, where they get redundancy, but we'll also hopefully serve some of the data centers going in Pampa. So anyway, that's kind of what we do. We're a mid-mile provider. We do construction, mid-mile. We have very simple business plan, but we enable, whether it's carriers, hyperscalers, businesses, things like. And our partnership with Duos Edge, I've known Doug for a while, and he's a great guy. Wish he'd come out of his shell a little bit, but other than that, he's pretty good. So anyway, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with y'all. FiberLight is committed to this project, and we're committed to bringing education, high bandwidth to this area region. I think it'll pay off tremendously. So thank you for the invite.
Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Tanya Larkin. She is the Executive Director of Region 16. I was talking to her a little bit earlier about Region 16, and they serve 83,000 students. The largest school district would be the ones in Amarillo, which is 30,000 students. They have school districts as small as 45 people. She oversees, a lot of folks here, is working in, the whole Panhandle. And, she brings a lot of experience. She was in the school, working in the schools for almost 30 years. And she's been the executive director since 2019. So if you could just tell us what you're doing, that'd be great.
If I only knew what I was doing, that'd be great. Doug, I'm going to stand because I'm not 5'3", so I'm going to stand. No, I have to give you that hard time all the time. Welcome, everyone, to Region 16. We're so happy to have you here. This is exciting for many reasons. We have wonderful partners, and it's really just the hope that comes for the Panhandle when you talk about the system that we're putting in place and the work that we do. So what is Region 16's part in that? If you don't know what an education service center is, like you said, we serve our region. You may not know that Region 16 was the very first education service center in the state of Texas. It was originally called the Panhandle Education Service Organization, the first of its kind, created the model. The legislation thought it was so brilliant that they put 20 of them in place. We were not named number one, and I still protest that today. But that work is truly about service. It's serving schools, serving the people serving in their communities, and making a difference for students and families. When this project came to my desk, we were talking about whether or not to get involved in this work. And the reason there was a question is because this is not directly related to our mission. It's indirectly related to enable us to achieve our mission. And that is the internet, the speed, the quality that we know is needed in our rural schools. And so when we were talking about the impact, and we're going to talk a lot more about that today, and a lot of them have talked about economic impact, and of course, just quality of life impact. But what is on our mission is that it should not be a detriment to live in a small community. Every child deserves the best. And we believe that every day. And they can't get that if they can't access the same thing that every school in Dallas can access. Our students are brilliant, they're capable, and they're hungry. And they want access to the curriculum, the content, the opportunity. And this is going to enable us to do that. And again, not for just what is available now, but what is available that we don't even know exists yet. Artificial intelligence, just virtual reality. We have a lot of simulations and augmented courses that are available. We have available courses through universities that are free. The problem is the content is rich. It is video, it is real time, and with our issues that we have great internet providers now. They're doing great work in their communities. For our schools, they need it to be dedicated for the school so that there are no glitches, no latency, there's redundancy, so that school can go on. You know, when you lose your internet, it's an inconvenience. When our teachers lose internet, they've got kindergartners to entertain for 8 hours. It's a crisis. It's important work. So our role in that is to be a convener of all of these people doing great work. We're getting it into our schools, and that's our goal. Our goal is to make sure our schools can compete, our kids can compete, to keep the Panhandle relevant, populated, and successful. And so that's our purpose. So thank you so much for being here today, and we're excited to share our data center with you.
So the last person I wanted to introduce is my friend Michael Keogh. He's the Chief Information Officer at Region 16. I was sitting in your office yesterday, and I said, you graduated from WT with a bachelor's degree and then a master's degree in 2009. I said, what were you doing before that? So he kind of explained what he was doing. He was working in an industry. And, you know, I think that that's important. I think that it's very important for us to all realize that, you know, a lot of us are going to have multiple careers over our lives. And I think this is one of the things that this system is going to provide. It's going to provide a robust system for people to be constantly educated. And I think the passion that Michael brings to this project and the dedication that he brings to the area is super important. So I'm going to let you explain your role and
many hats I wear. So, you know, Dr. Larkin talked about competitiveness, and the thing I wanted to kind of touch on was the competitive edge. Every business in this room, every city in this room understands competitive edge and what that means, but it looks different for all of us. Some of us are after stakeholders and building our stock prices. Others of us, in our case, our stakeholders are our students. What happens after the 12th grade? What happens after college? And where do they go and what do they do? In the Panhandle of Texas, you probably, if you're here, you probably see that a lot of our kids leave and they don't come back. They stay in Dallas or Houston or Denver, Washington, somewhere else. I want our kids to stay here. I want them to know that they have an opportunity here to have high paying jobs. They have opportunities to learn essential skills in technology, and that we're doing the work to provide that. Our competitive edge and the way that we keep our kids and the way that we keep our communities thriving is that we allow opportunities for technology to come to this area that change the game for what kids can do. Not just now, not just for our seniors today, but I'm thinking for the fifth graders in all of our schools today. What job are they going to be doing? Bell Helicopter is planning their next helicopter for the fifth grade class. So we have to plan for the infrastructure of the future, not the infrastructure of today. So that's what we've been trying to do. And we made a very aggressive choice to switch from a provider model of internet to a collaborative model, removing all revenue from all sources of internet so that schools had the best possible option. Our schools that are on the consortium, you'll see a fiber consortium pamphlet in front of you. That consortium provides every school, about 52 of them, possibly more in the future, gives them 10 gigs of resilient to semi-resilient internet across the whole panhandle. What that means is that we have multiple loops of this fiber that FiberLight's putting in for us. About a $38 million project, and when they put their investment in, significantly more. This creates a foundation, and we started with that process saying we have to fix the connectivity problem for our students. But as we started going through that, we got introduced to DUOT. We realized there was some other options that we could add with these data centers. Not only can we put in a data center to help lower latency, create disaster recovery solutions, enhance security for these schools, but we also have now a unique opportunity where schools that are connected to this network get a unique opportunity to take advantage of really expensive equipment. They get to be involved in, you'll see this NOC, Network Operations Center over here. Wouldn't it be cool if our kids at our remote schools have an option to participate in some form or fashion without violating our SOC 2 or anything like that, have the ability to participate in what it's like to manage a data center on an enterprise level? Wouldn't that be cool? They're not going to have that opportunity otherwise. They're not going to have that at a local school, but they're going to have that with the Region 16 as part of this consortium. What about if we had AI systems that are expensive living in this building? And our students could learn to program those systems, learn to interact with those systems, and do it securely. Not on ChatGPT, not on some web-based software that we don't know where that information is going, but right here in the data center that the school districts own. Wouldn't that be pretty incredible? Opportunity they probably wouldn't get otherwise. What if we start delving into things like, and I love to say the word, but quantum networking, quantum computing? Are our small schools going to get that opportunity? They're connected to us. They're connected to these data centers. They're going to have opportunities potentially to get access to those type of resources and learn those type of technologies. Those are the things of the future. When we think about infrastructure 4.0, most communities around the area have internet. And I've had people ask me, why are we doing this internet project? And why are we doing these data centers? I have internet to my house, but it's different internet. The internet we're putting in specifically for the schools, but what's going to happen intrinsically throughout the panhandle is extremely high speeds, future ready. It's going to help us deal with not only the opportunities of the future, but the challenges of the future too, where if we don't have this infrastructure in the panhandle, we're going to be in trouble because other cities will have it, other communities will have it, and we'll be left behind. The thing that I wanted to touch on too, because I get to be last, the collaborative the space of the panhandle of Texas. The ability for us to join together with folks like the Amarillo Area Foundation, the City of Amarillo, City of Pampa, the Range, DUOT, FiberLight, and there's so many more. I could sit there and kind of keep ticking them off. We all have different missions. We all have different ways of being competitive. And we found ways to join together as a cohesive group to say, this community matters and our students matter, and the ability for them to grow, learn, and stay is one of the most important things we can do, not only now, but also in the future.
All right. Now we have some questions for the panel. So the first question is, how will this initiative enhance community well-being?
I think we could all answer that one, but I'll start obviously with the schools. That's one thing, but community well-being, And this goes back to your main points too, is it's not just education, but it's also healthcare. It's access. And that is really the key to all of this is fair and good, quick, fast, reliable, but it's access that we currently don't have. So well-being is a myriad of things. It's not just a great education system or access to great healthcare. It's having great businesses in your community that contribute back to your community, that have people there that want to live in that community. And that helps every business. It helps your churches, it helps your hospitals, your schools, your businesses, your construction. Every industry depends on people being there, wanting to live there and be successful and healthy. And so access to that is the biggest thing that I can say that helps well-being beyond the things that first come to mind. And Doug, you want to add to that?
The other great thing, like I was saying earlier, when we drop a pod in the community, just alone look at the mobile operator. So right now, a mobile operator has, say they have 60 towers around this region. Your phone pings that tower, it hits fiber, it goes back to Dallas. Well, right now, they're limited on how much bandwidth they can give you and how quick the speeds are. So when you bring this in, now the actual carriers, the T-Mobiles of the world, will actually hit that tower and come 6 miles to 10 miles to this box and then shoot back to their core network or hit AWS, whatever their platform is. So it makes it more efficient, no more pixeling on your phone, when you're watching something on YouTube. So that brings better connectivity. What happens when you bring better connectivity, your phones work, all of a sudden now you have T-Mobile at home, hotspot, and you can work from home. That's a big issue we see and why we are deploying these, because remote work is just as good as anything else. So Procter & Gamble, prime example, I met with them in Cincinnati. They said, we like your pod idea and going to these tier 4 markets, tier 3 markets. We have a lot of talent out there that a lot of our workforce works from home, but they don't have the connectivity. So we need them to move in closer to the cities. So they want to know where we're deploying, because that's going to help them recruit people, because there is the right people in these communities. They just don't have the connectivity. It sounds crazy, but it's true. If you don't have consistent connectivity at home, they're not going to keep you. I mean, that's communication is key, and getting access to their software and their platforms that they're running is key. So once you drop this pod, it creates an environment and it starts growing, starts spreading out, not only to mobile operators, it runs to the energy companies, it runs to manufacturing. And one more example. So in Georgia, there's a small town in Georgia, drawing blank, where the university is, Statesboro, Georgia. So that's considered a tier 4 market. There's a university there, but other than that, there's not much there. Well, there's a long haul fiber going through there. We dropped the pod, and guess what? 2 huge companies came in there and built factories. Just because we started that process, other carriers came in. Now it's Patron Tequila builds their glass bottles there. So, and that's employing like 900 people. It's ridiculous. So just little things like that, you don't see it, but it's actually working. It's working behind the scenes and doing this kind of stuff. So we're real excited about it. And that's really why our second mission is to deploy these, because it starts its own little nucleus, its own little virus, basically. And it's great in a good way.
I'm gonna add just a quick note on that. In order to enhance, it brings a lot of businesses. We worked with good friends down at Deep East Texas Council of Governments, and we're competing with Alabama for a huge manufacturing plant. Well, they could offer them all kinds of incentives, but you know what the number one thing was? It was the internet issue, was the connectivity issue. They wanted to have connectivity back. That's important. And if you're going to draw big businesses to some of these cities around, Amarillo may have it, but does City Line, does Stratford, does Perryton, do they have the ability in Pampa? Before we came in, could Pampa provide those for large businesses? Those will create jobs, and you create jobs, and you can add on to the schools. The schools will grow. That's what we're trying to do. So.
Continuing to add that I've been doing fiber now for 9 years. Didn't know I'd be doing that for my career, but apparently I've been doing that. Dumas, Canyon. Now we decided let's just hit every city. But a lot of the testimonies I've heard, one in well, in several cities actually, where the land is cheap, the community is great. We had all the boxes checked for why a company would want to come into a small community. And I've heard this 3 or 4 times. The company starts that process and realizes the connectivity is not what they need to run their business effectively, and then they leave that community. Where that could have been a business, and I know of one that's a fairly large one, that a community missed a great economic impact just because the fiber was not what they needed to run a fully sustainable business. This is going to solve a lot of that problem. The other part is access to secure and reliable data. These data centers are going to provide that. The ability to have that SOC 2 compliance, have that disaster recovery and security operations. These type of things also build the workforce. So those are the 3 components I see the most: the connectivity, the data, and the workforce. If you can hit those 2, you're going to start building workforce that actually improves the ability for business to come here and want to stay here.
Okay, so my next question, I want to kind of point to Chuck and to Ron, but just talking about these data centers, these large data centers and these small data centers, what type of educational programs do we need to set up and do to these smaller data centers and then these larger data centers?
That's a really good question. I was on a panel a couple years ago, and one of the things I brought up was what's next. And if we could figure that out, what's next?
Okay, we're gonna try to get started back. So if everybody could start making their way to the seats. Amen. All right. If I could get everybody back to their seats, we're going to get started. All right, we're going to wrap up so we can. The city's going to be here, or the Chamber of Commerce is going to be here, so we can do our ribbon cutting. I wanted to let y'all know that if you wanted to learn more about the range, what is going on with the AI device or system that Rich and Maggie are developing, or the Amarillo Area Foundation, that the three of us have booths outside. So we'll be around kind of the balance of this session. So please stop by and visit with one of those three organizations. I have time for one more question. If anyone has one more question, and then we're going to do our wrap up statement. All right. Well, oh, we do. Okay. Oh, hey, Dan.
Hi, everybody. Dan Sinowat here, founder and CEO of AI Connects, and we're good partner with FiberLike and DUOT. And I just wanted to say a few things, like just add the comment on what kind of people are we wanting to hire for the future generation, right? And I think it's all around like AI application. And AI application, like I tell everybody all the time when I do interview and stuff, it's actually AI is 95% business, 5% technical. So for our kids, it's really all about domain expertise. And I think what you guys have here is the domain expertise in agricultural, in manufacturing, defense, and many things. So I think really for our future generation here, you have a really great opportunity to build on top of what you have here. We were talking about what can we fill in this edge data center here. I think what we can fill is an AI training lab for the workforce development, for student, for our corporation to come in and train on hands-on training, right? We have partnership with Intel who can actually provide us with curriculum on different AI workforce training, K to 12 training in different way. So we just wanted to say a few things on that. That's all.
So thanks for that comment, Dan. And I just want to echo that, is that as we've gone around and talked to people throughout the country, one of the things that we realized that really stands out about this area is our expertise in agriculture, energy production, and we provide 40% of the nation's beef, 10% of the nation's dairy, a lot of energy here that the world and the nation can't do without. And so we don't want anyone to mishear us that we're making this seismic shift to all things AI and all things digital. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to develop this as a tool of the future to help do what we do more efficiently, better, and make it less burdensome on the people that are doing the physical work. imagine a beef packing plan of the future where someone is not actually having to carve those pieces of meat off of the hide and stand on their feet for 12 hours a day. That could be very transformative to the population that's doing that. So, replacing repetitive tasks. I'm kind of reminded by this joke. It's like, all I want AI to do is do my housework and do the dishes so I can do my writing and artwork. And somehow we've got AI doing the artwork and the writing, and I still have to go home and do the dishes. So, I guess closing out on that poor joke, I'm going to hand it back to Rich, and guys, what you guys are doing, everybody here, investing millions of dollars, providing hundreds of people that are working on this to make big changes, to make sure that we're not left behind is really important. None of this would have been initially possible without the work of the Amarillo Area Foundation that really helped coalesce this together. And so there was also a lot of time spent by the city and by others writing these grants, and that was a lot of work too. So there's a lot of unsung heroes in this room. But with that, I'll hand it back to you guys.
I'll just wrap up with one thing. I want to comment on the AI because I think there's some real value there in talking about the future. And I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but giving the opportunity to train students. There's great opportunities out there for digital learning. YouTube has resources, other things, but how much better if they learn from professionals in the industry? How much better if they have the resource sitting in a data center connected to their school? And that's the vision that we provide, that catalyst to connect business and industry and leaders with our students so that they can have that direct opportunity to learn outside of YouTube. It's kind of like hacking. When I was in a K through 12 school, we talked about some kids that were kind of skilled at hacking. They kind of wanted to pursue that, and they did it outside of our privy. and how much better if you train a student on defense mechanisms, on how to protect things, and you give them that leadership guidance rather than just saying, well, you're skilled, go learn it. You give them an ecosystem where they can learn it and they can be successful and they can go into a field that pays significantly more than probably any of us in this room. Maybe not, but it's an extremely high paying field, and you're putting them in a position where they are empowered to learn as opposed to testing it on their own and doing it in a way that will result in their failure in some way or shape or form. So my ultimate hope for the fiber network, the data centers, is we're building community. We're building capacity for kids, and we're building the ability to generate workforce development, economic opportunities, and ultimately empower our kids and our workforce for the future today.
Thank you, Michael. Just some other closing comments. We've talked about potential and opportunity, and the energy in the room is contagious and it's exciting. But I want to say something that I've learned over many years in the work. This is change. And change is hard. And change is scary. And there are people who may not be as excited as we are. And so that's an opportunity for us to explain and not just dismiss their fears. Because when we talk about AI, there are a lot of people who are still fearful of that. And we're working with our schools. It's like you said, use the power for good. Because if you're not intentionally working towards that and stepping into the space, then the other is going to happen anyway. But with this, it's one thing that makes this special is our collective will to make a better tomorrow. And I know I'm getting a little on the rainbow and butterfly side of this, but I do think that if people like us don't come together and forge a path, take the risks, have the conversations, have the debates, have the dialogue around what people are having to lose so we can gain this. Because people who cut the meat at the plant right now, that's their livelihood. And the negative person would say, well, what are those people going to do? They need those jobs. Well, that's the relearning we just talked about. And technology can help them learn a new skill that improves the quality of their life and also the quality of their paycheck. But they're not going to necessarily try something new until they have to. So there is going to have to be something given up to gain something. And we have to be mindful of that and step into that space as well. because we want everyone to get across the finish line, not just the ones who see the opportunity today. They will see it eventually, but there are those people we talked about earlier that are like, I believe it when I see it. Those are the ones that we have to reach out to and say, okay, you can't do this anymore because we've automated that, because that's future, it's efficient and effective. But now let's already have a system where you can learn something new and be a better version of yourself tomorrow. Thank you. All right, y'all have any other final comments? Chuck, you good? Okay, all right. So I think our next step is we're gonna move around, and Michael's kind of got the agenda. I see we have the red coats in the back. We're almost ready for our ribbon cutting. So we're excited about that. So where does everybody need to go next, Michael?
Has anybody checked the weather? Are we outside? Okay, so we have a pathway, and you'll see signs, and so the pathway will be kind of through this way and then kind of around the building, and then we should have some staff kind of waiting to show you where to go, and then we're going to kind of guide you to the pod, and then ultimately we'll do a ribbon cutting right there.